We are live. Welcome, guys. Welcome for joining in live today. We are live Sunday morning at 10:12 Eastern Time. And today, this is day 16 of the live to all the OGs. To all the OGs who's been watching me since day one. Listen, thanks a lot, guys, for tuning in. As you guys know, this is a personal challenge that I did because most people have asked me, they go, Emmanuel, so why in God's name do you do a live every day? Why don't you just do it like once, once, twice a week, like every other normal person out there? Because I'm like, well, first off, I'm not normal, I'm extraordinary, but that's not really the code of the message here today, right? So I was watching this video and he was talking about basically the statistics and the study of how couples who basically start a business together, they end up staying together, and how the pros and cons of basically being in a business relationship, right? So I'm setting up everything here, guys, as we are. I think I'm gonna stream a little longer today, just cause. Okay, so I want you guys to take a listen to this, and I want you to tell me what you think. What do you think? I want you guys to take a listen to this, okay?
Got married not because you guys were in love.
Oh.
It was like a business transaction.
We went on our first date and we ended up talking about business for 4 hours. And I didn't have any romantic anything, but I was like, she's cool. And so I felt myself kind of just wanting to see her again. I mean, I remember the next day I was like, hey, I'm working all day. Want to come work with me? And she said, sure. And so then she just hung out with me, and then we just both worked together. And that was kind of the vibe of how things started. Is whatever I was doing, I'd just rather do it with her. And so it was much more companionate. The shared mission and shared values of this is what I want to do with my life. She's like, me too. I want to do big shit. And up to that point, I had definitely dated people who wanted to do big things, but the types of big things they wanted to do were different than the types of things I wanted to do. And so we weren't mission aligned. When you want to do big things, what do you have to go through to get there is hard. And I knew that where I wanted to go, not a lot of people would be able to hang, but I just knew that I was willing to go through a lot of suffering to get there. And she was too. When I lost everything, I kind of sat her down. I was like, if you leave right now, I won't blame you. She's like, if I have to sleep with you under a bridge, I will. That she just was there, even though I gave her an out card.
You guys got married not because you guys were in love.
This is an interesting.
We went on our first date and we ended up talking about business.
Let's pause this real quick. Let me give my little commentary on what I think. I'm curious what you guys think, but let me tell you what I think personally. What do I think? Okay, that is not the norm, in the sense as to not everybody gets to meet that partner, that ideal partner that, that they go and say, we're going to start a business together. And he makes another comment that we're going to go ahead and talk about here in a little bit, but let me finish my point. Let me talk about my point here real quick. Okay. All right. So the comment where he said that basically, what I wanted to do was what she wanted to do. We all had the same vision. We all had the same ideology. We all wanted to do the same thing together. That's not the norm for everybody. Most people are usually the opposites. Not every couple in a relationship is as ambitious as they are, right? So that's the first I want to start. But I'm going to say this. It's very important that you find the right partner, because I'm going to say this as someone who used to be married. I was married. Unfortunately, I joined the divorce club. So, it is what it is. But as someone who used to be married, I'm going to say this is when you don't have somebody that you are in alignment with, that person is either going to make or break either your business life, or is actually going to make or break your relationship. So I'm actually going to say a quote here, since it's Sunday, and in the spirit of Sunday, right, we're going to go ahead and basically use a scripture verb from Proverbs 18:24. I'm not going to pull it up here, guys, because this is not a sermon, but to all of you that miss church, I got you. You miss church, I got you. So it says, one who has unreliable friends soon come to ruin, but there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. Okay, now let's kind of stick this into a relationship. I'm going to say this: one who has a terrible partner, one who has a terrible partner comes to ruin, but there is a partner who sticks closer than family. Okay, there is a partner that sticks closer than family. Now, why am I bringing this? Okay, I want you guys to listen. Take a listen to this. Why am I bringing this? If you have somebody, let's say you're a go-getter, you're somebody who's always I like to take action, I like to move, but then you have that one Debbie Downer person that you're in a relationship or you're in a friendship with that's always telling you you can't do this, you can't do that. Oh, why should you be doing that? You shouldn't be doing that. No, absolutely not. Don't do that. You're better than that. Don't do that. Why are you doing that? No, we don't do that in this family. I want you guys to take a listen to this. Listen to this. Listen to this. Let's go ahead and get a listen to this. And this is
this hand represents you. This hand represents your friends and family. This is you saying, I want to go do something big with my life. You go, but your friend's like, wait a minute, come back down here. What are you doing? Come back down. No, Mom, Dad, I'm so sick and tired of being broke. Son, come back down here. We're not special. We're just regular friends. You think you're going to be a millionaire one day? And you keep going. Eventually, when you try to go, the tension gets harder. when you get to this point, it's so difficult to break away, because if you do, it's going to snap. When it snaps, a couple things happen. So this is you and I. We want to go distance ourselves from our friends and family because we have dreams. You go, boom. That hurt right now. But watch, many of you have not only one, you have not only two. So one represents your mom, one represents your wife or ex or friend or peer or cousin, another one, and another one, and another one, and another one. These are all people that are holding you back. Now watch how hard this is. I want to go. You can't, right? They're powerful. Okay, it's a very strong power that they have on you when they hold you back. But if one by one you show that you want to go out and win big, eventually they're going to realize how serious you are. This hand represents.
I want you guys to take a listen to that, because I think that is very mind blowing. Because I was captivated. I don't know, I was touched. That's by a commentary by Patrick, by David. Definitely go check him out. But what he says is very true. I'm going to tell you this. So when I started out in the ventures that I did, okay, I'm going to tell you this. The people, I remember my ex at the time, because I didn't know I had an entrepreneurship spirit when we, initially decided to tie knot. So at the time, she was, I have no ill will. I'm not speaking bad about her. This is just basically, I was very young at the time. I was in my early 20s when I did it. So this is a very, very long time ago. But she was not a person that was very averse to, the business side. And what was interesting was she used to be an insurance agent. So the industry I got into was actually the insurance industry, which was super, super fascinating. But we had super different, like the one thing in which we disagreed on a lot was how we took responsibility for things. Okay. Was I saw everything and anything that happened in my life, I believe was my fault, 100%. And this is gonna sound like a tough message to you. You'll probably listen to this and you're like, no, it's not my fault. What about if my brother is the reason why I'm doing this? What about if it's because my sister? What about if it's no? You have to understand, whatever happens in your life, it's your fault. It's your fault, 100%. It's not a matter of if your spouse, your partner ended the relationship, somewhere along the line you screwed up. The other day I was playing chess with a friend, right? And I haven't played chess in a while. We're playing chess, and boom, checkmate, right? And I was like, oh man. And I'm like, yeah, actually, you know what? And I was like, you know what? I screwed up 6 moves ago. He's like, yeah, I know. You screwed up 6 moves. You moved your bishop here. The knight came here. You did this, and you sacrificed the pawn when you should have not sacrificed the pawn, in which you should have actually kept that here, because boom, he came in with a knight and took it. Here's the thing. Somewhere 6 moves ago, you messed up. And until you realize and take advantage and take personal responsibility to whatever it is that you're going through in your life at this current phase, it's your fault. Your fault, my man. It's your fault. And the reason why I'm saying this because only when you take personal responsibility for your life can you decide to start cutting ties, cutting the band with people that do not in any way, shape, or form help you move forward, help you grow, help you get closer towards the finish line. Because guess what? If people are not in your line helping you go, then you know what's interesting? You're not gonna move forward. And the reason why I decided to talk about this topic was anyone who's known me knew I used to be a serial dater. If you had told me the concept of relationship, I'd have told you no. I would have said no. I said relationship are not for people that want to move forward in life. That used to be my belief and my understanding at the time. But then again, my mindset has since changed. But I want you guys to take a listen to this, and we're gonna see if this is true or this is not, because it's actually, Alex makes a comment and he says that people who start a business together have a 10% chance of getting divorced. 10%. I don't know if this is true. I don't know if this is true or not. I want you guys to be the judge of this, because guess what we're gonna do? I want you guys to take a listen. We're gonna go ahead and watch this and see, is it true or not? Is it true that people who basically, start a business together have a lower divorce rate? I don't know. Let's go ahead and give this a listen.
Divorce rates for people who have made $1 together in a business they started is 10%. So it's significantly lower. In order to even get to that first dollar together with somebody, there's a lot of other things that have to be aligned. And then you also have this post-commitment kind of bias where you both want to keep this thing alive and you're both working together towards like a shared mission or goal. And so I think there's just a lot of alignment that happens there. And so if you're both in the same business together, you're being exposed to the same stressors, and then you can grow together in the same direction.
So if you work together, if you're on the same mission together, if you have the same values, if you both like fitness and all these things, those are all the arguments as to why you want to be with that person. We ever have a hard day, it's like the thought of exiting doesn't even cross my mind, because there's so much overwhelming evidence as to why it makes sense to.
Now, okay, I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna come back again. I'm gonna come back with my commentary again. What do you think? This is you be the judge of this, guys. You be the judge. What do you think? I personally believe that when it comes to actually being in a relationship and being in a business together, Yes, there's the outliers of people who actually, stay married and stay together. But what happens to the stress in the relationships? What happens to, when it is that you guys have to deal with each other, and then you have the concept in which familiarity breeds contempt, where you're basically having to interact with the same person. You guys like, hey, um this, that, and everything all in all starts to basically compound on itself, and you're like, do I really, really, really want to deal with this person every day? Do I really, 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 want to go ahead? The stress starts to compound, and here's another shocking thing that I want to go ahead and cover here is this is where basically couples discuss.
There's one thing working for a boss in a 9 to 5, and then there's another thing being self-employed, but then there's another level above that is being self-employed with your life partner, because you're like, not only am I responsible for my own work amount that I put in, they are 50%. If you're 50-50 in your business like we are, you're 50-50 in it. So there's going to be obstacles, there's going to be problems.
Definitely naturally puts a lot of pressure on the relationship. And I think there's one thing somebody said to me, it stuck with me forever, because he goes, mate, if you want a healthy relationship, you need to treat your business like a business, and you need to come to the table, like a business meeting, and treat it like a business meeting. But in your personal life, you need to treat it like your personal life. I do struggle with separating the two, and I feel like that's probably one of the more difficult parts of it.
Okay. Now let's come back here. Let's come back to this here. We just heard them. Now this could be just all for social media. This could all be for clicks. We don't know, right? But when you start a business together, here's one thing you have to think about. There's a financial stress, right? Now you also have to deal with it in a perspective of, okay, what would happen when there's disagreements in the business, when there's disagreements in relationships, and you have to be like, let's say your husband is not performing, and you as the wife have to go ahead and be like, hey, honey, you got to get your ass off the couch. You got to go out there and work. You got to go out there and do this. How much in which does it because now it becomes hard to keep your business and your personal relationship separate. It becomes very hard, because now you got to be like the tough talk, and now you have the wife who's bossing the husband, and let's say it's an egotistic man, and he's like, why are you telling me what to do? Boom, next now you have fights, or vice versa. Now you start to bring, and then if you have kids together, then there's even more stress that begins to come into play. But does that mean that you shouldn't start a business with your partner? No, absolutely not. Still do, because there's still people who actually end up seeing success in it. There's still people who actually end up seeing, they have revolutionary, marriages, revolutionary businesses, revolutionary. I mean, you have the what's the name of, Alex Hormozi. That's one. They've been together for almost 7-8 years. So I'd say, they're probably outliers in this. I don't know the confine of the relationships, but I would say this is, if you decide to get in a relationship, business with a partner, whoever it is, just make sure that you have clear, how would I call it? Clear defined roles as to what each person is going to do. I'm going to tell you a story. This is my father's story. So my father used to be, this is how I got my entrepreneurship spirit. And this is where I say the important roles of a father. I say that and I know in America there's a rise of the fatherless homes, and it's now basically being run by the government. And I'm going to say this is, there is a very huge importance that the father plays in the role of the kids. It doesn't matter, how many kids, if it's boy, girl, it doesn't matter. It's basically the father plays an important role, because true there, especially for me, I'll say the role that my father played in my life was, as I grow up, everything that I do, I always ask myself this: what would my father do? What would my father do? That's something that I've always asked myself. And the reason why I've always asked myself that question is because I've always asked myself that question because there are times in your life where you're confused. There are times in your life where you don't see an end goal. There are times in your life where you don't know where, you're left from your right, you're right from your wrong. And you just kind of like, you need that model. Your parents set a model for you. Okay. They set that model for you in the sense as to, I asked myself, what would my father do? Like if it's days in which I'm tired, I ask myself, I'm like, hey, what would he do in this situation right now? What would he do? Right. And the reason why I ask myself these questions is because in very crucial moments, I know I have my camera going in. So in very, very crucial moments, thank you. All right. So in very, very, very crucial moments, whenever there's a decision that's going to be made, I always look back and they say, what would my role model do? What would my dad do? What would my father do? Because that is the important role of father. Now, what is also interesting? Now, this statistics might be wrong. The statistic might be right. Now, I remember when Alex commented and said 10% people who start a business together usually have a 10% chance of getting divorced. I don't know how true this is, so I actually went ahead and researched this, and I researched it. Let's go ahead and see here. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen here. You guys tell me, what do you think? There's a study here. It says the divorce rate is higher for business owners than the general population. In fact, studies that divorce among entrepreneurs ranges between 43 and 48%. 43 and 48%. That to me is insane. That's insane. Now, like I said, guys, I don't know how true that study is. I don't know if that study is actually valid. I don't know if that's that, and that should not be a study that is in a way keeping you, or basically, because some people are going to listen to that and be like, oh yeah, you know what? That's a reason why I should be single. Some people are going to listen to that and be like, oh yeah, that's a reason why I should not move forward. Some people are going to listen and be like, oh yeah, that's a reason why I should listen. I'm going to tell you this. One of the biggest, most interesting decisions I ever made was choosing to be in a relationship, because that gave me access to, I'm going to say this, that gave me access to a superpower. It's superpower. And I want you guys to go take a listen to this. A superpower. And now this superpower is basically, I want to go ahead and, this is going to be a commentary by Jim Rohn. And I want you guys to take a listen to this, because this is a commentary by Jim Rohn. And let's go ahead and dive into this. Okay. Because what he talks about here is,
in the middle of the night, the baby cries. Mama's awake. Papa sleeps. Mothers sleep near the surface, and the least little movement or sound, they're awake. It's built in, the female mother, that instinct. She says to her husband, go look, something isn't right. Downstairs. He says, no, everything's fine. She says, go look. He says, okay. He gets up in the middle of the night, stumbles downstairs, and the front door is open. How did she know? They just know. I don't know how they know. They just do.
They just do. It's a thing called intuition. Women have a thing called intuition, and this is something that I never, because as a man, the way you see things from a very logical perspective. So you can either be logical or emotional, but usually most times the logical and emotional part of the brain don't necessarily sync. In a sense as to, you can either be on one fully emotional while the logical side is completely shut down, or you can go fully logical while the emotional is shut down. But usually for women, they have the ability to do both, which is very, very fascinating. I want you guys to actually take a listen to this, and also let me know what you think. You say, hey, I disagree with you on this. I don't disagree with you on this, but I want you guys to take a listen to this.
There's been times in my relationship with my girlfriend where she'll be like, that person treated me in X way. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, they walked in, they said hi, there was a smile. It's like the most obtuse description of what friendliness looks like. And my guess is that women are picking up on those very subtle things, but often lack the language to describe it as.
There's a reason for that. And it's in the brain, but it's the matter we speak the least of. Nobody really talks about white matter. The white matter is the connective tissue between the two hemispheres. It's called the corpus callosum. And women's corpus callosum is much thicker than men's. What that means basically is that the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere of women's brains communicates a lot more successfully and rapidly. So men often are in zones. We're very good at sort of compartmentalizing that type of thing, whereas women are very good at multitasking. Corpus callosum is as developed as it is for women. They can go back and forth between all those things very rapidly. Intuition is not just logic. It's not just emotion. It's accessing both at the same time.
There's been times in my relationship with my girlfriend where she'll be like, that person.
So now, okay. I don't mean to, I'm not segmenting anyone to be like, they'll be like, oh man, you're siding on the woman. I'm not siding with anybody. I'm just saying that together, separately, divided you fall, united we stand. And there's a reason why we both complement each other. Everyone pretty much, you complement each other in the sense as to every party brings together something that is unique and something that is different. And in our uniqueness and in our difference is what gives us the ability for success, because together you have ability to tap into different wealth of resources. Okay, wealth of resources. Your wife has the ability to provide a wealth of resources. As a husband, you have the ability to provide the wealth of resources. Together, you are indestructible. And this is something that I had to learn, because I have had business partnerships where, talking about the intuition thing, where I didn't listen to my intuition, because later on it kind of kicked in like, dude, you should not have done, business with this person. You should not be in this person. I never thought about it that way, but I was almost like looking at it from a logical perspective of the logical part of my brain that, hey, 1 + 1 is 2. So if 1 + 1 is 2, then it should work. Not understanding that there's an emotional factor that comes into play. And that emotional factor is what makes people unpredictable, because people are predictable when they have everything going right. When everything starts going wrong, then they become unpredictable. When things on its own in general start going wrong, then you're dealing with the unpredictability of the person that you're dealing with. Because you could have a business partnership with a friend, right? You could, and this is another reason why I personally don't believe in business partnerships with, going into partnerships with family, right? In the sense as to money changes people, because what money does is money gives, it unlocks a different part of the brain, which is self-preservation, right? Which is when someone gets in possession a large sum of money, especially the amount of money that they have never seen in their lives before. They've never had this sum of money in your lives before. Usually, what did they end up do? There's always that part of the brain that's like, you know what, I need to preserve this. You know what? I need to keep this. This is my money now. This is not your. This is my money now. And then when you kind of having to deal with that, when that is something that's coming into play, then you're in a perspective in which you're dealing with an unpredictable person. So that's why it's very, 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 very important to understand the fact that you have to have that other person, the your yin and your yang, to be able to maintain that balance. Okay, to be able to maintain that balance. Now, you've probably listened to this and you're like, there's still that concept of the people that are like, you know what, I'm gonna be single. I don't want to be in a relationship. I don't want to do that. I just want to focus on me, because there are people like that. And I know I said you're gonna be successful. I think you will still be successful, but I think you are also missing out on something which is very important, right? Which is the union, right? And it's a commentary here where Patrick kind of talks about something here, and he's like, if you're in a position where you're refusing to get married, that's fine. But he's also saying that that's also
Do you advise men to get married if it's the right match, or is it a positive move in most people's lives? Do you think?
I think you're miserable if you don't get married. It's just, when do you get married? If you really think you're going to be happy staying single the rest of your life, really? Like, a man can really sell me on staying single the rest of your life and you never ever get married and experience life? What's the whole purpose of life? Like, really, what is the purpose of life? Okay,
yeah.
To do what? To go out there and party? Fine. For how long? To go out there and do what? To go out there and, have as many, for guys, body count is bragging rights, right? It's different for women. For men, it's like, hey, I'm at 182. Where are you at? I'm at 62. Where are you at? I'm at 22. You're at only 22. Where's but okay, at what point is there like a leaders bulletin that you eventually make it? Is it like a Forbes 400?
Do you advise men to get married if it's the right match?
What he's saying is very important. There's this whole body count thing. And what I want to say to that is there's this obsession with having high numbers. I'm going to tell you this: the more high numbers you have as far as partners go, the less likely and the harder it is to bond with your significant other when you do decide to have in a relationship, because now you have a lot of data. Okay, you have a lot of data to compare the other person to, and guess what? You start to look at the imperfections, right? You start to look at, because we're not all perfect. We're human beings. There's no such thing as a perfect human being. I don't think that there is a such thing as a perfect. I don't think anyone was designed to be perfect. I don't think either man or woman actually is perfect. We're not perfect, right? But the concept of it is, when you have significant partners, and this is, like I said, this is nothing to, I'm not, whatever it is, but you have a lot of data to compare. And when you have a lot of data, you basically, now your partner that is a genuinely nice person, you're like, oh well, they don't do ABC, but this girl over here does DEA, does ABC. And then you start looking at all the imperfections, but then you start seeing the fact that you have all these pieces out there from different people, which kind of gives you this perception of, you can build a Frankenstein, I don't know, harem or whatever it is. And it kind of ends up messing up in the long run. I think it kind of does, especially if you don't have the ability to actually focus, right? But then again, also, doesn't mean that you should also rush into a relationship, because I think most people have the mistake, and they make the mistake of rushing, and that doesn't mean that you should rush into it, right? So in the census too, I want you guys to listen to this. Okay, this is another commentary by Patrick, and he kind of talks a little bit about people who decide to rush. What is the right time if you decide to get in a relationship or marriage or whatever it is that you are looking for?
Which means in America, the man has to be careful who to marry, because she can totally ruin your life if you marry the wrong person. That's in America, okay? So now if you're listening to this right now, so, well, Pat, what should I be looking at? Number one, take your time. For me, As a man in America, if you want to get married, 30 to 40, the right age. Take your time. There is no competition. You know, the race, like, hey, let's see who can run 100 yards. Hey, let's see who can do the 40. In marriage, no one cares how soon you get married at 18, 22, 28, or 32. No one cares. You can take your time, get married at 35, get married at 38, at 31, at 30, you are fine. Doing it too early, you don't have enough experience, because marriage doesn't come with a manual. As much as your mom, your dad, your friends, your peers are going to try to tell you how to get married, how to do it the right way, 99% of whatever anybody tells you about marriage, you're going to have to go through it yourself. Which means in America, the man has to be careful.
Russian was what got me initially when I, became, someone who got divorced, was rushing to it, right? Because the thing is, most I don't know how this turns into like marriage counseling, me basically giving you marriage advice or marriage therapy or whatever you want to call it. But when the feelings that you feel right now for your partner, right, whoever it is, the feelings that you're feeling right now for your partner, in the next 2-3 years, they're probably going to change. And then the next 3 to 4 years are going to change. 5 to 6 years are going to change, because emotions is the one thing that is not constant. Okay, emotions are not constant, because emotions vary, emotions change. The feelings that you have right now, you could be excited right now, and then guess what? The next few months, a few years, you're like, well, but the reality of it is this: is what is constant is if you have a set of principles and morals that you stick to, and true off of that, you basically go ahead and work. Now, which kind of segues into something which is I learned from relationship, was the word commitment. Right, I learned the word commitment because business is tough. Everyone who say this, anyone who doesn't agree to this, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Business is tough. Some people have it tougher than others. Not everyone is going to have the same experiences per se. Your experience and my experience, and her experience and his experience are going to be completely two different experiences. But overall, in general, what keeps you committed and staying in the business is your sense of, how would I put it? Your sense of seeing everything through, your sense of going, regardless of how hard things get, regardless of how tough it gets, I'm going to stay committed, and I'm going to keep doing whatever it is that I said I'm going to do. And that's the one thing that you learn from being in a relationship, because relationships are not easy. That other person is going to piss you off. There's going to be days in which they just are like, you just look at them, you're like, oh my God. Right. But then there's days in which you're like, wow, I love having them around. Right. But regardless is what keeps you in that relationship, staying focused and saying, I'm going to give it my all. That also translates into business. That also translates into how you see business, how you operate in business, and the things that you go ahead and you do in business, because those are, I would say, simple, easy, but business in its forte has moments in which you're just going to have to reach deep in and say, this is who I am. I'm somebody who stays committed. I am someone who, continues to do things regardless of how I feel. I am someone who does this. I am someone who puts other people first. Those are little principles that you learn in business, that you learn in a relationship, because you actually, believe it or not, you actually treat your customers better when you have a better time at home. When you have a great relationship with your family, with your kids, when you actually interact with customers, you have a very much a fascinating relationship. And what's also kind of interesting is business also gives you what is called, because everyone always says, your why. Like, what is your why? What is the reason why you're doing this? Like, who are you doing it for? When I got in insurance, they always ask you this: who's your why? Right? Who's that one person in which that you're doing all this for?
Work on your list of whys.
Work on your whys.
One of the big thrusts for success is to come up with a strong enough why. In leadership training, here's what we learned. If the why is powerful, the how is easy. But if the why isn't strong, if your goals aren't powerful, if the vision isn't clear, the old prophet said, without a vision, we die. Without a vision, we perish. Without a dream, we're nothing. I'm asking you to make a list of what you want. What kind of health do you want? What kind of skills do you want? What kind of power would you like to have? What kind of influence would you like to have? I'm asking you to go home and work on the why. Work on your list of why.
Work on your list of whys is... So there was a story of the salesman. This was a very incredible salesman. So he sold more cars This is not the one you read in the books, but this was a local dealership. He sold more cars than anybody else in the dealership. He was a foreign guy, came in from Egypt, sold more cars than everybody. And everyone always asked him, why are you so, is where they even say, why are you so aggressive when you sell? And he's like, because if I don't sell, who's going to take care of my mother? Who's going to take care of my father at home? Who's going to take care of my wife? And who's going to take care of my kids? It's all on me. I have no choice but to. Now, because of this man makes more money than everybody else. Because the thing is the reality is a buying a Lamborghini, buying a Corvette, buying a Porsche, buying a Royce, whatever car it is that you want to buy, buying a Patek, whatever it is that you buy, those things are not as strong of a motivation force. They're not strong enough. They're not strong enough to motivate you because those are things that you can live without. Okay. And when it is something that you can live without, the motivation for it is very fleeting because when it gets tough, you're like, well, I can live without it. So why am I stressing about it? Right. Those are things that you're like, well, I mean, it kind of does affect me in a way, but does it really? Does it really affect me at all? But when you actually start to look at things from a perspective of family, of people around you, you're like, if I don't work, they don't eat. Right? If you don't work, your kids can't go to school. If you don't work, your family doesn't take care of. If you don't work, your mom doesn't get a medication. Now, those whys are whys that you cannot live without. Your why in business and your why in life has to be something that you cannot live without. It has to be basically moments or people that, and this is the reason why I say having the right people around you. Obviously, we figured out earlier on that having the wrong people can ruin you, but having the right people around you will motivate you. Because if you keep the right people around you, you're always going to say, you know what? I have to strive. I have to keep working because if I don't, then what about them? Because the thing is, as human beings, we will do more for others than we will do for ourselves. We will go above and beyond to put food and clothes on the back of others than we will for ourselves. Because as a collective group, we know that when the other person's taken care of, supposedly we are also taken care of. And that's where it comes into play. That's where the interesting part comes into play as to the importance per se of having a why that is not motivated by material things, because material things, they come and go. Like you buy a new car today, that new car is going to get old tomorrow. Everything eventually does get old. But when it does, it's like it's just a material thing. But the people that you surround yourself with, this is also another important aspect of you being in a relationship and starting a business, is because if you're doing it because you know I have to take care of those people who are closest to me, then you don't have any choice but to keep going. You don't have any choice but to keep working. You don't have any choice but to stay motivated. And you know what's also interesting is the more you work for them, the more you make more, the more you take care of them. Which actually, I'd say this is there is actually, because 87% of business owners, 87% of business owners make less than 100 grand a year, right? That's why we have the divorce statistics of like 43 to 58%. But it's also, remember when we were talking about earlier, we were talking about Alex's comments on, the divorced people who are getting divorced and like their percentage being at, 47 to 48%. He said 10%, and then we saw different stats. It says 47 to 48%, or 43 to 48%. What about if it's not actually related to, you know, actually having a business together? What about if it's actually related to your income earning potential? Because this is a very interesting study. Because while I was doing my research, I came across this and I was like, let me see. I'm pretty sure this is going to be an interesting statistic to share with the audience. Because I figured you guys love data as much as I do. I hope you do. If you don't, there's going to be an issue. But let's see this. It says, so this is just basically a comparison of people, of basically the percentage of divorce in basically, I guess it's a forecast or prediction. This is basically by Duke University, based off of income, based off of the projected the income of the demographic that you're studying. If you look at this data here, which is interesting data, interesting statistic here, is it's a 0.05. I believe this is a percentage, 0.05%. If the income is over, this is in thousands of dollars, of 380. So you see how it flatlines right here. So which means there's actually a decrease in divorce rate for people who make the ultra high net worth, or basically the top 1%, because one, I mean, Why leave that apart? Your life, everything that you need is taken care of. You have ease in life. The only reason in which people at that point separate is because of lack of commitment, infidelity, and all that good stuff, all that bad stuff, obviously. But then you also notice here as well, if you keep looking at the data, it also still you still look at the data from here, and the chart is so poorly designed. It's not even funny. It's like such a poorly designed, but what I want to share with you guys here, which is this is a very much an interesting statistics, because as you guys know, I kind of want to share the data. I share the data. You be the judge when you see the data. Okay. Now this is basically from the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis. So this is the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis, and they kind of shared this data here, and it's an interesting data to kind of talk about. So this data was basically talking about the annual earnings by marital status, race, and gender. Right. So basically talking about how your income potential is affected by your marital status. If you're single, married, or in your relationship, right? So this is what this data is comparing here. So if you look at the statistics and the data here, we have it based off of if you're a man, Caucasian man, you're looking at an income, you're looking at a higher income earning potential as though if you were a single Caucasian man, right? Which is right here, you're looking at a lower income earning potential. If you're a married African American man, you're also looking at a higher income earning potential as though if you were single. Reason why is because now you have more sense of responsibility. When you have a sense of responsibility, you do more because now you actually you have more than just yourself to provide for. It's not about just like going out and partying, because now you're cutting out the party. Now you're cutting out the the extra fluff, and you're actually focusing on things that matter the most, which is your family. You're focusing on things that matter the most, which are people who are basically closer to. And then it says here, wages versus hours worked. So because earnings are the result of hourly wages and hours work, Vandenberg and Peak looked at whether the high earnings of married white men and might be the result of longer hours worked. In the answer, the authors found that did work long hours, but the difference was slight. Okay, so this is basically comparing as far as like work hours, who works more. I'd say, married people technically kind of do work more because you almost have to work more to provide for your family, as though if you were single, because if you're single and your bills are $800 a month, and you're cool with making 2 grand a month. But if you're a married man or married woman, and you have 7 kids, or let's say the average household in America, I believe, has 2.3 kids. Let me see here. The average household in America has how many kids? Let's see. So the average household in America has 0.78%. So 0.78 kids per family. So roughly wow, this is 2022 data. You guys didn't see this, which is very fascinating here. Let's look at this data here real quick. So it says there an average of 0.78 kids per family in the USA. 2022 data reveals that American families had an average of 1.94 of their own children under 18, a drop from 2.3 kids, which was 2.3 kids in 1960, to now it's about 0.78. So which is interesting because Americans are actually having less kids than they were roughly about 80 years ago, which is very, very fascinating. So, but if we're looking at the data, let's say you have 1.98 kids, 0.98 kids. So let's say you have a kid, right? Let's say you have a kid. You are responsible for that kid because that kid did not ask to be on this planet. You actually, it was as a result of your actions and your activities was why the kid is here on this planet. So if the kid is alive, you have a degree of responsibility to make sure that this kid is taken care of. So if you have a degree of responsibility to make sure this kid is taken care of, then it's only fair that you work extra hours to make sure that you put a good roof over their head, make sure that they're warm, put clothes on their back, make sure that you're fed, right? Because it is your responsibility as a parent to take care of your family. So which means you work even more because it's not about you anymore, right? So that's why now if you're single, you're comfortable making 2 grand a month. But if you're married or in a relationship, now you need to make 7, 8 grand, 9, 10 grand, because you need to give them one. You got to also make sure that they have a safe and secure neighborhood. And if you want to put them in a safe and secure neighborhood, we all know that that's not cheap. Right. So, and then again, it pushes you to the limit to increase your income earning potential. That's also another increased statistic and increased study of basically, having a relationship or having family and having all that good stuff. Now, you be the judge, because all I'm doing right now is sharing, other people's, point of view, sharing numbers and sharing data and sharing stats. Now, it's up to you to say, hey, you know what? I agree and resonate with the stats. I agree and resonate with that stats. Or, you know what? I disagree on this matters. I disagree on agree on this matters. That's completely up to you what you decide to do. But at the end of the day I'm just basically presenting the numbers and the statistics and the facts to you, so you can go ahead and kind of use that number, that data to go ahead and, do what it is that you want to do. Now, another thing which is also interesting to me, and I'm going to end on this note, which is, should you start business with friends. I'm not an advocate for starting business with friends, and the reason why I'm not an advocate for starting business with friends is because it complicates the relationships. It complicates the friendships because now tough conversations, right? How are you going to have tough conversations? You can't have tough conversations with that person because that's your friend, because you're afraid, you don't want to hurt their feelings. And when you don't want to hurt someone's feelings, what do? You kind of back up and you kind of step away, and you kind of like go into like a recline perspective of like, hey, I don't want this person to feel bad. So you go long times without actually telling them the truth because you are genuinely afraid of how it's going to affect them, right? And that is a huge con of basically going into business with with friends. And another downside to it is you don't ever do your due diligence. So like say a friend comes to you like, hey, I want you to invest in so and so stock, or I want you to go ahead and I want you to go ahead and what do you call it, I think this would be a great opportunity for you. I think you should go ahead and do this. I think, and I want you guys to go ahead and take a listen to this. This is a commentary by Steve Harvey, I believe.
A lot of times people say don't start companies with your family or your friends. You invested with one of your friends.
I did it because we were friends. If it had worked, it would have been more life-changing for him than for me. Sometimes, man, you do things when you get on the other side of the money trail where you can start investing instead of hustling for every dollar. You're going to make mistakes in investing. The thing I learned from that, look, I appreciate you being my friend, but I got to do my due diligence now. I got a whole team of people that do research. And then if it's good, I might have some money to invest.
A lot of times people say don't start companies with your family or your friends.
I'm curious what your take is, but what he's saying is so important and so valid. Is what he's saying is when you start business and you start relationships with friends, you miss the fact of actually doing your due diligence. You miss the fact that you let your emotions get the best of you, and when your emotions get the best of you, you make poor decisions, right? Because you're not making decisions from a very logical perspective. You're not making decisions from, hey, is this actually going to improve, increase, or is this actually going to decrease? Right? Those are ways in which how are you actually? What are you? That is a perception in which that I want you to keep in mind when you do business with friends. Is looking at it from a perspective of, am I actually seeing the full picture of this? Now there's also great friendships like the Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger friendships, where I want you guys to take a listen to
little
this.
bit about what your partnership has meant to each other. How many years, Warren, have you been partners with Charlie?
I met him in 1959, and we instantly became partners in thinking. And then over the years, we developed all these financial relationships. But I knew immediately upon meeting Charlie that we were going to be, we were in sync, and we've lasted a lot longer than I thought we would. But we have had an incredible fun together. We've
I'm gonna cut it right here and basically bring it full circle to the Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett. If you don't know who Warren Buffett is basically the founder of Berkshire Hathaway. It's an investment company that does billions, if not trillions of dollars in investments on an annual basis. Now, he and Charlie Munger are basically, I don't understand too much into the setup of their business dynamics, but I believe they're business partners. And they've been business partners for years, for decades now, and they seem to work very fine. They work in tune, they work in sync, but that's not the same for everybody. Not everyone has that phenomenal friendship and business relationship. Now, I don't know if you guys are familiar with BlackRock. So BlackRock is basically a lot of people joke and say BlackRock owns America. They actually kind of do. BlackRock pretty much owns everything, because if you actually look at actually, let me see if I can find this how much percentage of companies of does BlackRock own? Okay, so which is very fascinating because I had to study this and I was like, and I think BlackRock owns about 80 something percent. I think 80 something, 88%, 88% of, and they have about 8.59. Let me go ahead and share the stats with you guys so you can see this, which is insane to me, if you ask me. So BlackRock has about $8.59 trillion in assets under management as of December 31, 2022. So there's a mega investment company. They own pretty much everything, the entire everything. Now, did you guys know that who the founder of Larry Fink, who was the founder of BlackRock, initially used to work with believe it's Steven Schwartzman. I think it is Steven Schwartzman, which is the founder of Blackstone. Now, Blackstone, it does pretty much does exactly what Larry Fink does with BlackRock, but they had to part ways, and they were think about it like I think Steven Schwartzman was Larry Fink's kind of like his mentor. I believe that was his mentor, and they had a free disagreements. And I was able to pull up an article here, and this article I was able to pull up was from Wikipedia. That's not the one I was looking for. That's the one I was looking for right here. So basically, they had it's like a father son friendship, and Fink wanted to basically share equity with new hires. So in a sense, it's to they had a divide because Fink Fink wanted to basically give equity to his new hires, and Schwartzman did not want to lower the stake of the company. So they parted ways. So BlackRock could do whatever it is that BlackRock wanted to do, and Blackstone, which was owned by Schwartzman, could do whatever that is that it wanted to do. Hence, the divide. And now you see that BlackRock pretty much has superseded Blackstone ever since the divide from even though the company was started, I believe, in 1988 or 1989 was when they started Blackstone. But that just shows you that, and now you have with the divide of the business, now you have a split of friendship. You have two friends, two family that are divided because they had a business disagreement. So you can start a business with your friend. There's nothing wrong with it. And I think there was a quote, if I can find this quote here. I don't think I have a quote. I don't think I have the quote here, but if I can find the quote, I'll share the quote with you guys. But I think there's a quote, and basically you can't start business with friends, but you also have to understand to set it properly, in the sense as to you set concrete rules. You have the tough conversations ahead of time and say, hey, what do we do if somebody is not performing to par? How do we address the situation, right? Those are key things in which are conversations you have to have as well with yourself, and there's conversations you have to have as well with your business partner. What would happen if they're underperforming or poorly performing? How do you deal with that? How do you address it, right? Because you'd be like, hey, do you feel comfortable if I ask you this question? Is that gonna hurt your feelings? And if they say, hey, you know what, I'm not too confrontational, it's like there's a book that I think most people need to read this book, and it's called 101 Questions to Ask Before You Get Engaged. I think there needs to be 101 questions to ask before you get into a business partnership. Get to know your business partner. Ask them, hey, is there anything that you've done in the past life that might in some way, shape, or form hinder the way we do business, right? Or how do you feel about managing money? Or what amount of money would you say would be an amount of money that would buy you out, right? Would you be open to a buyout? Right, those are simple conversations that I think most people need to have, and are not genuinely having. So that's pretty much it, guys. Let me know in the comment section what you think about this. Like I said, we're going live, and then tomorrow's live is going to be another short one or long one, all depends. And then I just basically join and chit chat with you guys. But that's pretty much what I have. And let me know if this video was of value to you. Hit the like button also as well. If you're new watcher to the channel, go ahead and hit subscribe, because I go live every day. This is day 16, I believe, or day 17. So which means I got 83 more days of going live. And we're going to be doing live podcasts as well. That's going to be coming up soon. We're just in talks with the guest. Once we have everything else squared away, everything is going to be happening fast, guys. So just go ahead and make sure you sub to the channel, like the channel, because we got big deals and big things in the works. And obviously that's all I have for everyone who's been here and who's been one of the OGs. And as I always like to say, enjoy, guys, enjoy.